Hey, hey, what's up, everyone? And welcome back to another episode of Learning Quick. Hopefully, that feedback. I mess this up all the time where I watch the stream to have it up and then I don't turn off the audio. So then it comes through. I don't know if it piped into like the output into the stream. But anyway, what's up, everyone? Welcome back to another episode of Learning Quick. Excited to have Ania Kubow to join, fellow YouTuber, specifically in the JavaScript game space, which is really exciting. And like most of the guests that I've had on, we've never actually met until like right now or 15 minutes ago, which is kind of cool. So I enjoy having people on that I get to meet and learn from and talk to. And anyway, welcome if you want to like introduce yourself and tell people a little bit about you.
Hi everyone. Thanks so much, James, for letting me be on your channel. I'm really excited. My name is Ania Kubow, and I am indeed a software developer and YouTuber. I have been on YouTube since the beginning of last year, mainly creating content around games. Um, I love it. I really enjoy making the games in JavaScript. And this year, I'm going to focus much more on making the games in React and so on. So that is sort of my niche. But we can go on to all of that
We'll
in a
have,
lot more detail.
yeah. Very cool. I hadn't actually heard your potential transition to doing some more stuff with React. That's cool. I'm excited to hear more about that. Also, I don't know if you noticed, but there are now redemptions in Twitch for you to use your points to change the lights, for example, to random colors, which is what one guy just did. Thank you for participating and doing that. That's cool. There's also a Christmas lights one that you can turn it to, and you can turn them off and on if you want to. So you can try that out. And there's a push-up redemption, which if you redeem those, I might save those till the end, so I don't like have to go up and down in the middle of everyone. But anyway, feel free to interact with those if you want. Before we get into like the exciting JavaScript and potentially React, but game content, just being in America, having seen, for me personally, the stuff that's gone on the last couple of days, the stuff that's gone on the last several months, stuff that's gone on several years, and then like for hundreds of years, to be honest. Just wanted to kind of address that. It's a weird thing for me, having been super distracted, super affected mentally, thinking about all the stuff that's going on, and then thinking about a stream. And like it was kind of my thought that like not everything stops with stuff going on. So I wanted to continue to do the stream, but wanted to use a few minutes initially just to kind of address that. One, just to kind of say like as a developer, as average developer, as somebody that you may have seen on Twitch or Twitter or YouTube or whatever, like I'm affected. I think about that stuff, and it's really tough, and it's really sad to see some of the divisiveness and the hate, honestly, in the country and the way that different people are treated, and how that seems to be pretty obvious that different people are treated differently. So anyway, just want to take a minute to address that and just kind of bring that up. If you have any thoughts, respectfully, you can feel free to leave those in the comments, and we'll kind of leave it at that for now. So then I guess kind of like a hard switch in terms of mood. We'll try to keep it upbeat. So do you want to, where like JavaScript games, where did that idea come from? Like I know I've seen some people do that, but you really embrace that as your brand. And to me, it's one of the most unique brands that's on YouTube in terms of developer content. Like how did you get started? Where did you get that idea from?
Well, I think for me personally, on my own developer journey started way back when I was building my first website. I mean, it wasn't really a career that I thought of back at the time. I think there wasn't that much, you don't really hear about software development as a career choice, or you didn't at least. I think now it's changed a lot. And it started with me just messing around with my website that I was building. I was starting a startup that was like an e-commerce startup, and I didn't like the design of the website. So I decided to start messing around with it myself. And lo and behold, I was sold. I was like, oh my God, what is this? Like, I love this.
You were
Where
hooked.
can I
Yeah.
learn more? And started on a journey of first like a self-taught developer. However, I think I taught myself like a little bit of, well, HTML, CSS, and then a little bit of JavaScript. And I think I just wanted that structure. So I joined a boot camp,
Oh,
which was
cool.
great.
I didn't know that. Yeah.
I did, yeah. I really enjoyed it. And from the beginning, I mean, learning websites is cool. I mean, it's great and everyone does it. We all do it. We all probably work on websites on a daily basis. But it was the game development where I was just like, wow, like working with the logic of building games, problem solving. I think I just really enjoy that aspect of it. I think someone once asked, like, why do you enjoy software development so much? And I just thought, like, it's just like learning like solving Sudoku every day.
Mm-hmm.
So I think if you really wanted to get good at JavaScript, and I did, I really want to become the best I could be at JavaScript. I really sort of embraced the game aspect. So by the time that, like I'd created loads of games in my past. So then someone asked me, um, how would you solve Tetris? And I was like, oh, well, I would do this like this. And after that conversation, because you don't really realize, you just think you solve something. And after that conversation, the person was like, oh, this is a really interesting way. I haven't seen it done this way. And after a while, I was like, you're right, I'm going to share it because if you think this is interesting, perhaps there's someone else out
Mm-hmm.
there who perhaps doesn't relate to one way of solving a problem and would relate to my way of solving a problem. So I did it, I shared it, and it got quite a lot of feedback, which is great. So from then on, I just started sharing more and more games. I think the fact that I don't use Canvas is definitely part of that. So yeah, if you're a web developer and you're seeing a lot of games out there using Canvas, try using mine, I guess. I don't use it all.
uh, since you
Yeah.
since you mentioned the try mine, I'm gonna go ahead and put link. Well, this link is to your Twitter. I need to grab your YouTube too. But there's a link to Anya on Twitter, and then you can find our YouTube channel as well. You mentioned the boot camp, and then you kind of mentioned games. Was building a game covered in the boot camp, or was that something you just did on your own to kind of experiment with JavaScript later on?
We did it in like one module, and
Okay.
I just really gravitated towards that. That was definitely my favorite part of the whole thing.
Oh,
It
cool.
was so small. It was like literally in the first 3 weeks, and we were asked to build a game, and
Sweet.
it was just like a little tiny game. I think like you see the tic tac toes, froggers, and stuff out there. But after doing research, I was like, oh my god, there's so many games that you could build just with with
Mm-hmm.
3 files, an
Yep.
HTML file, a CSS file, and a JavaScript file. It's crazy. So I just really went to town on experimenting what you could do with that.
Was the game that you did, like the gaming portion of the boot camp, was that with JavaScript? Like it wasn't using a tool that kind of abstracted some of that stuff?
It was using JavaScript, yeah. So
Cool.
just those three things, yeah.
Yeah, that's sweet.
Yeah, it was fun.
So after you did one, you got positive feedback, and then like I guess how many game videos have you done so far?
Oh my gosh. So I'm gonna go by. So Tetris was the first. I liked it. It was, I guess, it was just interesting. There was a lot going on there. It wasn't too crazy. It was mainly just array work, essentially,
Hmm.
and using random a lot. And then I think the most interesting game I've done so far is probably, well, it's a toss up. I like doing Minesweeper. Minesweeper because we deal with the algorithm of recursion, which was
Mm,
quite cool. Um, there's a lot. Then I did Pac-Man, in which
cool.
if you are just learning classes that, sorry, JavaScript, that's a great one for classes and learning about classes. And then I did try to implement some other algorithms in that, as in breadth first search or depth first search,
Sweet.
but I think I just didn't, I haven't got around to it yet. So that is another one that I really want to practice as well.
Wow, that's
So
cool.
those Battleship, I did that with Code Stacker. I think Code Stacker's here, so
Yeah.
hey, Code Stacker. And
By the way, I'm gonna
website.
interrupt you really quickly. I apologize. Julie Strader, hopefully I've got that right, just rated with a party of 257 people just joined us on the stream, which is amazing. So welcome everyone that just joined. Typically, what we should do is, since we have that many people join again, just so they know what's going on and so they can kind of catch up. Well, one, my name is James Quick. If you're new to the channel, I do YouTube, on Twitter, on Twitch, web development related topics. I do a series called Learning Quick, which is what this is, where I bring on a guest, have them tell me about something that they do, which is awesome and enjoy. And so I've got Ania Kubow on. If you want to do your intro again, just so everyone here knows who you are, and I will throw your Twitter handle back in the chat. And then I promise we'll go back to where you are. I apologize, but this is big enough to kind of address. So
No, it's totally cool. Hey everyone, Ania Kubow here, professional software developer and YouTuber who loves to focus on teaching you JavaScript through building retro games. So that is
sweet.
me in a nutshell. Check out my socials. Thanks to James for posting them on the channel.
Yeah. Putting your, I don't know why one of my commands didn't work to add your link in there. So there's Anya on Twitter. And let me grab your YouTube one more time just to make sure that people have that top of mind. And so, what we were talking about again, welcome everyone. If you have questions about game development, if you have questions about JavaScript, and specifically the coupling of those two things in Anya's videos, let us know in the chat. But where you were is I kind of asked, like, how many videos have you done on different game tutorials? And you mentioned like Tetris and Pac-Man, and I think a few others. Someone else mentioned your 2048 one, which that's always been a favorite game of mine. So,
Yes, that one's a good one too. Again, not using any canvas. I do like before carrying on, I do want to specify that I don't use canvas in these just purely because, in web development, if you're going into web development, you're not going to use canvas, right? So you might as well learn how to build these games. Essentially, what you're just by building these games, you're practicing your JavaScript, you're practicing your problem solving, you're practicing your logic.
mm-hmm.
And I think by just using the plainest versions of it, you're going to benefit from that the most. I think just strip everything down when you're learning. Try not to use anything extra because that's just going to confuse you. So that is the reason why I use Canvas. 2048 is a great example of me building a game without that.
I love that
Standard
one.
Flappy Bird. I mean, I think everyone's
Yep.
on the Flappy Bird, but I try to do that in the least amount of code, which is quite cool. T-Rex Run, Pac-Man. I mentioned Pac-Man, and I Frog Game, Space Invaders. And I think that's it. No,
It's
there's
like
a
a
few more. I just can't remember them for now. But yeah,
so
check it out.
yeah. What you should do is you should build like arcade cabinets and then like have it like run your game on each one and then just line them up like in your garage or something if you have one and have like an
100%.
arcade of like all of your games that you created. I think that would be so cool.
That'd be so much fun.
Um, so you kind of mentioned this, and this is something that I'm particularly like passionate about myself, and I'll get into some of my background in this space too. But you mentioned like game development, and you mentioned learning JavaScript, and you mentioned like the association with Pac-Man specifically. Like Pac-Man, your tutorial was a great way to learn and kind of learn more or practice with classes and like different things that you could practice with in different tutorials. Why is that a better way to learn, or is it a better way to learn? Why games specifically? What's the benefit of having games be part of the content that you put out in terms of a learning perspective?
Yeah, 100%. So basically, if you think about it, if you break down a website, you're learning to build a website, there's not really as much functionality, unfortunately, in that standard website that you're going to build than you have to a game. For example, if I take the example of clicking on a button on your website, that's going to do one thing. It's going to do one
Mm-hmm.
function, most likely. It's going to either send a form or take you to another page. Whereas if, for example, let's take the game Snake, the snake impacts the apple. There is so much going on there that you're going to have to write in that one function. So, for example, the snake will have to eat the apple, the snake will have to grow in length, the snake will have
Mm-hmm.
to then move down, then another apple's going to have to appear. So there's a lot of logic going on. There's a lot of like statements that you have to consider. And I think that this way of thinking is especially going to help you when you become a professional software developer, like now in my daily job. So day to day, I'm working with much more complex things than just building a standard website. And I think game development definitely helped me get to that point. Even if obviously I'm not building games, that next level of logical thinking is the aspect that I took away from
Yeah.
building this game. And that is why I think I'm super passionate about the game building. I think I couldn't recommend it more to anyone starting out in web development, even if you don't care about games. I mean, maybe not all of us want to be game developers. It's not actually about the game itself, is
Yeah,
what I'm.
absolutely. And to your point, there's so much that you have to account for in building a game, especially one that has like you could build as complex a game as you want to, and you could have as much logic as you want to. But one of the things that I talk a lot about in teaching, so I teach a boot camp at nights right now. I don't know if you knew that. I haven't like talked about it much in our YouTube Discord. But one of the things I talk about is like if you want to get better as a developer, you need to tinker, you need to break stuff, you need to experiment, you need to try stuff. Like if you're just following a tutorial, you're just reading a book, it's not going to sink in, it's not going to resonate. So when you draw this parallel of like, hey, I'm working on game development, but it's making me better at my job where I don't do game development, it totally makes sense to me because you're forcing yourself to get creative with a language and programming and like tinkering and experimenting and breaking stuff and trying new things. And then you get to take like that mindset to work and really help you out there, which I think is perfect.
Yeah, you're 100% right. Yeah. That's definitely the mindset that
Yeah.
and instill with people. So yeah.
You've got, I say you've got a question because I can't answer this from Perkin. I'm not exactly sure how to say your name, so I apologize. But do you do GPU acceleration for web game development? I have no idea
No,
what an
I mean,
answer would be.
like I mentioned, the games that I do, they are just super simple. They are just for practicing JavaScript. So that is not something I do. If you are interested though, I'm just going to do a shout out to a video that I did recently with Free Code Camp. There is something called the JS13K games that I did a video on, and loads of people submit games in little 13 KB files. And I think I did that it's just a lot more game development focused, in which your question might be answered because there is a lot of that stuff covered, but it's not something that I focus on in my version of game development. So no, I don't do GPU acceleration is the answer.
Fair enough. And would the most appropriate link to put in here? So I found the video from Free Code Camp that is
Yeah.
the 20 award winning JavaScript games.
It's mental. Like it's absolutely crazy what these developers like submit in 13 kilobyte zip files.
Yeah.
Like the games that I was seeing, because I was a judge on I was a judge on the competition itself. I was like, what? It was next level. Like it was really impressive. Like I was super impressed. So I
Yeah,
really recommend anyone to check them out.
that's
If
cool.
or submit a game. Like why not? For
Be part of
2020.
it. Yeah. The
Yeah.
2021 goals. Yes. Submit a game. I actually want to go and watch that video. I haven't watched it. I've seen you post a few times and I just haven't made it around to seeing that video. So I need to go check it out.
Yeah, it's
Uh,
awesome.
Another question, a little less game development related from Entropic Universe. How important is coffee when coding? Do you drink
Oh
coffee?
my God, I drink so much coffee. I'm trying to drink decaf coffee
Yeah.
now because of the amounts I drink. But I mean, I'm pretty like laser focused anyway. I can sit and just code for hours, which is
Hmm.
not very healthy. Um, so, but the coffee definitely helps me stay even more focused. But yeah, I'm a big coffee drinker. Coffee until around 1, and then I switch to decaf.
Okay. Oh,
I
cool.
just yeah, I love the taste.
Yep.
The
I
kick.
I started drinking coffee in the summer, in this past summer. So like 6 months ago, I guess now. And one of the things I didn't want to do was like add sugar to like my daily intake. So I just started drinking it black, which was not fun at first, but now I really like it. And I like anytime I taste someone else's coffee that has like a little bit of sugar, I'm like, oh, that's way too sweet. So I got like really adjusted to it really fast, I guess. I've got a little bit left in mine because it's still,
Nice.
well, it's like midday. What, it's 11:30 here, so it's not super early,
Yeah.
but
I've been trying not to buy from big chains and just buy from like independents,
hmm.
but I can't be a chai latte from Starbucks, unfortunately.
My wife likes the chai lattes too. That's funny. We've gotten a few different like local coffees recently, just to kind of support, especially like we talked a little bit about COVID and stuff and what it's like there, what it's like here earlier or before we got on stream. And small businesses is just so tough, right? Like it's almost impossible for a small business to continue. So we try to support some of the small businesses that we know of in the area here.
Yeah, that's so nice. That's good.
Let's see. So thinking about YouTube channel, like just from a YouTuber perspective, you said you started, was it just a year ago? Is that what you said?
Yeah, so I posted my first video and that was Tetris.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I just thought I didn't really know much about the YouTube environment. I wanted to make a video for Udemy on Tetris, but then I was like, hey, I'm going to post it on YouTube as well. And that was, I think, January this time. So basically a year
Yeah,
ago.
yeah,
Then I didn't post for a while and I sort of I sort of started like, right, I'm going to commit to this
yeah.
thing in March. And that was when I, like got the new camera, got the microphone, got the lighting. Because before I just filmed it on my iPhone, I was like, I'm just gonna do it. It's fine. It
Yeah.
looks good. When you're like looking at your phone, you're like, yeah. And
Well,
then
that's what,
everyone else is like,
but that's
you're like,
exactly
oh
how
my
you
God.
should. That's exactly how you should start though. Like
Yeah.
there's no people get so nervous about over optimizing that they'd never create that first video because they don't think it
That
looks good
is
enough or
true.
sounds good enough. So the fact that you created the first one and decided that you enjoyed it now gives you the opportunity to continually improve, which I've been doing over 7 years.
Yeah, that's true. And the thing is, like I'm sure maybe you get the same feeling, like nothing, like you can always improve something, so you might as
Hmm.
well stop like thinking about it too
Yep.
much.
Yeah, I've gone through many different iterations of everything that I have. One of which is I'm not using it now. This is still my Logitech Brio, the 4K webcam, but I have my DSLR set up over here,
No.
and I've been using it for my recent YouTube videos. I just don't. The angle doesn't make as much sense, I think, for a live stream because I'm standing right in front of this one. But yeah, there's like infinite tweaks and things I've made, but it's kind of a fun process to get a little bit better each time you do one.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah. My knowledge of video editing has gone up huge.
Yeah, and I don't know how your first video looked, but that's one of the things I've always kind of picked out in your videos as well, is you do a really good job of creating energy by popping on elements and things. Like that's one of the things I haven't spent as much time doing in my editing, mainly because it takes a long time, to be honest, and you can get better at it and get quicker at it. But there's always something kind of moving in yours, which is really essential, I think, for like just kind of redrawing in people's attention or like showing them that there's something going on. So I thought you've always done a really good job of doing that.
Oh, thank you very much.
Chilaxathor says hello to you, and then hello to me as well. What's up, Chilaxathor? Thanks for being here.
Relax at all.
And before that, I think you have a question from Faiz, which I can kind of assume what the answer is, but I'll give you the opportunity to answer. How can I improve my logic in programming?
Okay, so definitely game development. As I mentioned, when you build a game entirely from JavaScript. So I think I was looking at one game that I made recently. I don't know what your level of development, software development is, but a game such as Memory Game. So Memory Game
Mm-hmm.
is, I guess, on the easier side of the games that I made. And I literally built that just with JavaScript, like the whole thing,
Mm-hmm.
like styling, everything. I think I just had
Oh,
like a
cool.
simple an ID in my HTML.
Yeah.
So having doing that really does improve on your logic. Just trying not to use the HTML or CSS much at all, because as much as I love all the languages, I think that is just it's just a completely different style. Like even I remember when I first started out, you just have to get your mind thinking in a completely different way when it comes to JavaScript. And it's that sort of repetition and doing the problems in that sort of way that helps you really get better at it. So
Yeah.
yeah, games all the way.
Games, 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 games.
Yeah.
um, I think here's an example of something I've done that was not practical at all, but really helped my understanding of something like React. So I have a tutorial where I and Chris in the chat, I'm coming to you in a second, so don't think I'm ignoring you. But I had started doing React, and I did this tutorial with vanilla JavaScript of doing a Pokemon game, or not a Pokemon game, a Pokemon app, where we use the Pokedex API to get Pokemon and then display them. And what I realized was I was writing the markup for those Pokemon objects in JavaScript, and I realized that it looked very similar to React. And I was using ES6 template literals, which means I could literally just like write out my HTML in a big block in JavaScript, just like you would in React. And then I could interpolate variables inside of it, just like you do in React. I realized, hey, this is super similar. So I never like shared any of this, but I took it another step further and I was like, well, what does it actually look like to build kind of my own React frameworky thing with navigation and stuff like that? And I started just kind of hacking together. Like if someone changes pages, then I was going and grabbing another piece of content from a function. Like the function just returned to me this HTML string. And I would take that HTML string and I would replace whatever was in the body. I would just replace it with that new HTML string to kind of show this is what single page applications do. And that's not something that I'm ever going to actually do. Like that's probably not going to be the thing that I actually do. But now I have a better understanding of how React works, and I can draw better parallels with how it works. And when a new framework comes out, I can understand better how that thing works. So I think games is like even more practical because you have a cool result, but it teaches you those things that you may not have even like thought to learn or practice otherwise.
100%. I love discovering something, and when
Hmm.
something just clicks,
Yeah.
like I can imagine for you, that was like a click moment, going like,
Yep.
"Oh, I get it now." The HTML, JSX, yeah,
Yep. And
that's really cool.
it really makes it less intimidating. Like a lot of people look at React and it's like this magical thing. And sure, there's a lot that's in React, right? Like it's written by lots of really good developers and all that, but like some of the stuff is not that difficult. Like the core concepts of what it does is not that difficult, which is anyway. Yeah, I found that pretty interesting.
Cool.
I don't know if you know Chris Mars, who is Salt and Burnham in the chat asking how do I get smart. Chris is self-deprecating, super smart dude. Is interested in learning more about JavaScript. So let me tweak his question a little bit to like if you were just getting started with JavaScript specifically. Where did you get started when you were looking at JavaScript? So you like before you went to bootcamp, what did you look at to first get a taste for it?
Oh God, I can't even remember now. It must have been something on a Udemy channel. Like I said at the beginning, like I didn't really think of YouTube, unfortunately, as a learning resource.
Mm-hmm.
I just like was on the Udemy. I was like street going through it, which is why I created my Udemy course.
Mm-hmm.
So unfortunately, I didn't get sort of introduced to YouTube until like much later, and then I put out a video and stuff. So that was sort of like my go-to. Now, I don't think I would suggest people go to Udemy. I think YouTube's fantastic, and there's just a lot of like other resources that I would. It is weird. I don't know why that was the only one that I heard of. How about you, James? Like, what kind of where before YouTube, where would you have advised people to
Yeah.
go?
YouTube would definitely be a big one now. So I don't know how much you know about my background. I have a computer science degree. That was kind of a random thing where I didn't know what to study and I chose it and I didn't know anything about it and it worked out. But I got like very not practical knowledge. Like I'd never really worked in a terminal, never worked in a command line, never used Git, never published a website. Like I'd never done all these things that seem super required, honestly. And I didn't really take it seriously from a learning perspective. Like as a student, I got good grades, but that's just because that's what I was focused on, not because I really appreciated or learned the stuff that we were taught. So I kind of empathize with people that come from a degree as well as people that are self-taught because I had never done anything web development until I took on Udemy the web developer bootcamp course by Colt Steele, and that was like an absolute game changer for me. So I think I had probably watched a couple of YouTube videos just out of curiosity, and I took that course and kind of like you said, you were hooked. I was like, oh my gosh, like I can write code and like see something, and I can deploy this thing and share it with other people, and I was hooked. Like web development was my thing. So I've taken like I could give you my favorite YouTube or Udemy course on lots of different topics. Taken lots there. YouTube is a huge resource. CodeStacker put free code camp, obviously like one of the best places to start for people, especially if you're starting from scratch. I can't. He just turned 10. My 10-year-old nephew 6 months ago or so got started on a free code camp doing HTML, and that was really like he hasn't done a whole lot since, but he was able to progress through it and kind of enjoy it, like seeing stuff happen. So that was really special. So free code camp is like I think easy. Free code camp and YouTube are easily the two that I would just like hands down just start there.
Yeah, for sure, 100%.
Yeah. Jailson Dev asked Anya, outside of the Udemy free course, do you offer others outside the platform? So obviously YouTube is huge. And do you have anything on any other platforms?
I do stuff on Scrimba.
Mm-hmm.
So I think those are the only three that I really do stuff on at the moment. I don't know if I'm going to expand. At the moment, I'm sort of focusing on my YouTube channel,
Mm-hmm.
as well as doing stuff for Scrimba. And again, I don't know if I'll make any paid courses for Udemy any this year anyway, because I do have a lot on my plate already. So I think I'm just going to continue down this route. I have a course coming out on YouTube, which is going to be quite a long one. So a lot of my energy is going there. I am
Is this
secret.
have you announced this yet? Is this a
I haven't announced it. Should I announce it now?
I mean, I would love to have you announce it, or you can give a
Thank
little teaser,
you.
whatever you're comfortable with. I'm sure that people here would love to have an idea of what's coming out on your channel.
For sure. No, it's again, it's just it is a quite a long one. It's going to be a because I do the videos on gaming and stuff, and all, but I've never actually done like a fundamentals course, so it will be the fundamentals of HTML, CSS, and JavaScript, but just done in a much more visual way, I think.
Cool.
My style is very visual, so I've just applied my style to sort of create something, hopefully a little bit more different. So I'm quite excited about that. It's going to be long, and I'm hopefully going to get out next week. So you've heard it here first. If I manage
Yes.
to get it past like quality control, which is basically just me looking over it.
I don't know if you'll be able to hear this or not, but people on the stream should. Here's some clapping stuff, clapping sound effects for excitement. Super cool. So when you say long, how long is long?
It's going to be like 10 hours. So this, I
What?
know, I really wanted to go for like, I really wanted to cover everything. And I think the stuff got a little bit out of hand, but it's going to be like 10 hours long.
Wow.
Um,
Is it
I'm
one?
like scared about even, I haven't even been looking about how big the file size is. So I'm just hoping it's under YouTube's allowed amount. Otherwise, I'll be really annoyed.
So you are planning on doing one video for that. It's not like a playlist.
No, it's not a play. It's going to be like
Wow.
one long
Yeah.
video.
That's so
I don't know.
exciting.
I'm interested to see how it goes because I put so much effort into it. Like, if it just flops, I'll be like, great.
I can't wait. I will make sure to pay attention for when that comes out, and I will make sure to share it in Discord, and Twitter, and share it wherever I can. That's that's one of the things I have not done very much of. And maybe I should, although I debate about it. Like I haven't done many longer videos because it takes a lot of work. Now I've never thought about doing a 10-hour video.
Yeah,
But just doing a video in general takes a lot of work. So when you get into, like, for me, 45 minutes, that's a really long one. So you get into something that's a couple hours long, that's a big deal. The
yeah.
one thing I might recommend for you
Mm.
is try to have somewhere to take like emails for people that take it, so you can
Okay.
like communicate with them in the future. Because unfortunately, like outside of following on YouTube, there's not really a way to like engage with people later if they watch.
Yeah,
So if that like leads to something bigger, then you might do like emails if you're not already.
I think that's a good idea just to get that communication going if anyone's stuck and so on. So yeah, maybe I should do that as well. Just add
Hmm.
another 10 minutes to my video.
It'll be 10 hours and 10 minutes. That's actually that's one of my, not necessarily regrets, one of my biggest learnings, where I did this series where I built a quiz app with HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. And it's done fairly well for me, and people have asked for updates to it, but there's no good way for me to update in a way that all of those people who cared about the update will know, if that makes sense. Like I could add another video, but those people who asked for it won't necessarily know unless I go scroll through all of those comments and say, hey, new video, new video. If I had them in a specific place, like in a newsletter or in Discord or something, then I could go and like notify them, and I would be more likely to make updates. So that's one of the things that I wish I had done better / would do differently in the future.
Oh, amazing. Cool. Thanks for that tip. I'm
Yeah.
definitely going to do it.
Um, Cool. See, several other thanks everyone for participating in the chat. Now it's really picking up. Do you have any future plans of moving into VFX, Unreal, and then I'm gonna put this in quotes, standard game development, because I think that would be kind of relative. But I
Yeah.
guess the question is more like moving into some of those bigger game engines.
I mean, I would absolutely love to. However, I think just because my personal path is web development and not really in the gaming
Yep.
industry, and my aim is to just get people coding more by creating
Mm-hmm.
games. I don't think it's something that I'll go into. Maybe one day, if I'm interested in it, then I will. I tend to just do stuff on my channel that I love, if I'm being
Yeah.
honest.
Right.
If I'm not enjoying it, like, what's the point? And that's not saying I don't want to move into that. It's just I don't think it's currently, like with my current job and stuff, it's just not really something that
Yeah.
matches what my path is, which is a shame because I don't really, yeah, no, I'd love to do it, but no. That's the answer. One day.
Maybe, yeah. But no, I think it's super important as content creators to create the stuff that you care about, because um it means more for you to be genuine, for you to be yourself. It means more, it shows more of your excitement, and it lets you be more excited, and I think makes for a better content, better video, and all that sort of stuff. So I'm right there with you. I'm going to take one quick pivot, just to let everyone know, especially for people that are new to the channel. So this is on my personal channel, the James Q Quick channel. I am a developer advocate at Auth0, where I do lots of content, YouTube videos on their channel, on our channel, streaming on our channel. in articles and talks and stuff like that. So if you're interested in checking out either one of those, the Auth0 Twitch, I'll put inside of here. It's just AUTH 0, and follow that to find some more content that I and my team do. And it's just cool that I get to kind of do some of this stuff during work as part of my job. So want to make sure to give a shout out to the company that I work for. And if anyone's interested in checking out the Auth0 Twitch channel, please do. Code Stacker had a question about what's JSX. I think this is probably a little bit of mistiming on my part, because this would have been more relevant when we were talking about it. I don't actually know. Does JSX stand for something particular? I don't know.
Do you know what? I do know, because I literally did it for part of this course, but I've forgotten.
JavaScript X is like that's not what it is. I don't actually know, but
that looks like HTML,
yeah,
but isn't.
but isn't. Yeah, it's close. So it's basically like the templating, not language, I guess, maybe like templating language type thing that you use in React for doing your markup. So it's kind of the markup syntax that you use inside of React. A couple of people are saying JavaScript XML, but I'm seeing some mixed feedback in there, so I don't know if that's real or not. But people go out and do your own research. But I'm gonna go JavaScript X on my. Yeah. Cool. So kind of moving on down. You had an interesting question. What is the difference between programming and mathematics? I think those are pretty distinct categories, but maybe can you talk about how you've used math in some of your games?
Yeah, for sure. So I think, for example, in all grid-based games, there is actually quite a big math aspect to it, because if you have a grid, you need to somehow figure out which square of the grid you are in. And by that, I mean, how are you going to figure out if you're on the left-hand side of the grid or the right-hand side of the grid, right? You have so many squares, you don't know. And unless you actually went and went, oh, square with ID is 10 is the right side, square with ID, and so on, which is long. You don't want to do that. So I do use math quite a lot in that. I use modulus, which is the one where you check for a remainder. And by using stuff like modulus, you can easily figure out with one line of code where exactly you are on a grid. So I do find that math is quite useful. They are, of course, completely different things, but I think without having like a fundamental understanding of some of the math operators that we use in coding, then it can be a little more difficult. Not impossible, but of course, your life's made a lot easier by all these things, right? So if you want to write clean code that's really concise, I would take the time out to really practice your math fundamentals as well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I in college, I was almost a triple major at one point. I was Spanish, computer science, and thought about math. I ended up being one class short of a minor in math. I've always loved math. It's always been my favorite subject, kind of before getting into programming at least. And I will say, like, I've never used any of the advanced math that I did. Like I took Cal 3, I took differential equations, never really used any of that stuff. Things like statistics, super useful. Things like graphs are super useful, especially in games. If you're moving things around, figuring out your X and Y and maybe Z, depending on what you're doing, axes, and how to move things around that way. Yeah, there's that. The core math stuff is everywhere in programming in general. So it's definitely a good background to have.
Yeah, that's impressive. What does triple major mean? Because I didn't go to an American.
Oh,
You take three majors.
yeah. So what would, like, if you go to university, do you call it a major or like a concentration
We
or?
just call it like, so I did architecture.
Okay, nice.
But I just chose architecture, and that
Right.
was it. There wasn't like, you just choose a course, which actually is a bit of a shame, because then a lot of people probably choose something without really exploring other options. But you just sort of choose a route, and then you
Yeah.
study it for 3 years or 7 years or whatever.
Yeah. So I applied specifically for the engineering department where I went to school, and I got in and they were like, all right, what are you studying? And I was like, shit, I don't know. And I chose computer science, again, having no idea what it was. I'd never seen a line of code. I'd never written a line of code. And it kind of worked out. So a lot of people do that and then change majors at some point. They decide that's not for them. They want to do something else. For me, I ended up enjoying computer science. I had a pretty big background in Spanish, and getting adding a second major in Spanish was not that difficult because you have to take like language arts / English classes to fulfill your major for computer science. Not that many. So I just replaced all those with Spanish and then took the extra Spanish classes to like get a formal major. So my degree says like computer science and Spanish. Would have done the same thing with math because there was a decent amount of math that I would have had to take for computer science anyway. So there was only a few more. I was one class away from a minor, and then 4 classes away from a major in math, and I just kind of stopped. So I enjoyed the other stuff I was doing, and just stopped taking math. So I ended up with 2 majors and 1 class away from a minor in math.
Okay, cool. Nice.
Yeah. Um, I'm scrolling through all the comments about JavaScript XML extinct. Code Stacker is he's a trustworthy source. He says JavaScript XML, so
Nice.
I'm gonna go with that. Let's see.
The one who asked the question got the response to the question.
This is funny. There's also OAMP Live. Mention I failed math in middle school, got a C in high school. I'm quite comfortable with logic in programming. I will agree with this. That's a pretty distinct thing about programming. Logic is super important. If you can't break down a problem logically, you'll have a hard time. And I actually took a couple of classes. I forget what the title was. I had one that was digital logic, which was more, I think, kind of like circuit type stuff. And then the other, or like digital circuits. The other was some sort of, gosh, I don't remember, some sort of logic class. And it was just like core logic, like no programming, just logically, here's how you think about things. And that was super helpful. I think that kind of stuff would be great for anybody that's looking to get into programming. Let's see, I'm kind of scrolling through Entropic Universe. I'm double majoring in computer science and neuroscience. Nice, very intense. Me too. Did CS and dropped out because the program was horrible. Unfortunately, that can happen. I learned more on my own weekends than entire week of classes.
Yeah, I hear that quite a lot. Obviously,
Mhm.
I didn't do computer science at all, but
Yeah,
I hear it's quite like a popular thing.
yeah.
You mentioned it as well, didn't you? That you didn't even cover the stuff that normally you probably would on a daily basis now in the
Yeah,
profession of a software developer or someone in that field.
yeah. It's an interesting thing. One, formal education is a very slow thing to progress. So like
Yeah.
they don't have the ability to just update their curriculum every year. But if you're a boot camp, that's kind of like the whole point, is you have to have relatively up to date curriculum because you're trying to get people jobs immediately. The good thing that I did get was, even though I didn't take as much away from it because of me personally and just like only focusing on grades, but just a core foundation in computer science. And what that means is, like, if you start with free code camp and you start with YouTube and stuff like that, you're learning how to create stuff, but some of the fundamental, like, here's how programming works, data structures, algorithms, a lot of that stuff gets overlooked in boot camps and some of the classes that people take. So I do feel like I have an advantage of having some of that background and then being able to couple that up with the things I've learned from YouTube and Udemy and other things that I've done, including just like building stuff myself.
Yeah.
Jordan, the CS Jordan, is this Jordan from, I don't think we've gotten a chance to talk before, but I think this is Jordan from the YouTubers or YouTube Discord group. So if it is, welcome, and semi nice to meet you from just like seeing you in the chat, but thanks for being here. I think a little preview, I think Jordan is still available to join me on a stream next Thursday on the All Zero channel. I think that's the case. So we will get to meet and chat next week as part of a panel. And I don't know if you saw that message, but we're doing a panel next Thursday on the All Zero channel about goals for 2021.
Oh no, I didn't see that.
It's later for you, so it's 2 p.m. my time. If you're up for it, I'd love to have you back on.
Yeah. I mean, I'm sure that'd be fine. I don't think 2 p.m. is too late. And I have stayed up for coding phase. I think I was up to like 3 a.m. doing
Oh
doing.
gosh. I won't ask you to stay up that late.
I didn't mind. It was fine.
Yeah.
But yeah, like I definitely could send me more info because
Cool.
I'll definitely be down if it's like at a time
Sweet.
that I can do.
Yeah, I will. I'll send you a message about that after. Hopefully, you'll come on. Jordan will be there. Code Stacker, who was in the chat. I don't know if you're still here. Code Stacker. Go check out Code Stacker on YouTube. By the way, I need to work out a process for shouting out people that are in the chat. I'm kind of working through that. Anyway, yeah. So go to the Auth0 Twitch channel and I'll follow that one so that we can see you next Thursday. So back to comments from Jordan. Jordan said, my friend changed his CS major to a business focus. And I'm kind of thinking about doing the same thing, but I don't know why. I'm really going to try hard in my math class this year and make my decision. But understanding abstraction can also, oh, that's another comment. So I think there's the cool thing about programming is like you don't need a degree. Like you can take some programming classes in school to kind of get that structured content. And you can learn whatever the hell you want to with like time on your own. And like Jordan is obviously already doing this sort of stuff with the content that he's creating and the effort that he's putting in. So like, do I think you have to major in computer science? Absolutely not. Would it be cool and useful to take a class or two to get a feel for it and have a little more structure? Yeah, that'd be great. Take advantage of that. If you think that the business side of a degree would be super helpful for you in your career, and it certainly can be, do that. And you could potentially do both, or you could at least take classes in both to give you a little bit of background and then really make out your career, whatever you want it to be.
Yeah, I think there's so much opportunity now for learning online. And I think if you really want to learn something, sometimes, like we mentioned before, getting that personal drive and finding out the resources that you're interested in and not just sitting and listening to someone talk at you, you definitely get a lot more out of it. And then it's not, it's also your time that you're investing, right? It's
Mm-hmm.
not like sitting on someone else's time and they're doing everything for you. It's how you're choosing to spend it. So, I mean, yeah, even though like obviously I started out being a self-taught but then moved on to a boot camp, I could see the appeals of both, definitely.
Yeah. Did you, just out of curiosity, you majored in architecture? Did you end up using that at all?
No, do you know
Really?
what? Like, I think it's again a case. That's why I was so interested. I did architecture because I was going to do either engineering or architecture, but I don't think I knew enough about. I mean, I was 18
Yeah.
and I chose architecture, I think, for maybe the wrong reasons because it turned out the course was nothing like I thought it was going to be. It was a lot more like, don't get me wrong, I do think it's important to be creative, but I think it was a lot more subjective than I was expecting. Um, so, and looking back, I wish I would have just done engineering to start with, but I didn't. And then I just got a job in finance and then decided I'm going back. I'm going back to my roots and yeah, finding something that's, I guess, more me, which
Yeah,
is like more down the engineering side. So yeah,
absolutely.
I'm glad I discovered coding.
How long ago did you do your boot camp, by the way?
Oh gosh, 2 years ago
Yeah,
now. So yeah, like not super long ago.
that's great.
Yeah.
That's so cool. And let that be like an exciting thing for people here if they're thinking about a boot camp or thinking about learning. Like 2 years in, like I'll brag on you. You've got an amazing YouTube channel, and you worked as a software developer. So like, what more could you want out of a boot camp? Pretty amazing. So,
Yeah.
um, bald bearded builder. Try to say that 5 times fast. Welcome. I checked in on his channel the other day, yesterday, the day before. I can't remember. So shout out to you. Thanks for being here. Check him out on Twitch as well. He mentions the one thing both college and boot camps miss is a course on Google Foo, which is kind of the term of like how do you Google stuff and how to copy the Stack Overflow answer first instead of the question. Two critical skills for developers in any language. I think there's like obviously that's meant to be a little bit funny, but also not so much because I think one of the big things in your learning process in either one of those routes is independence and learning how to, if you have to solve a problem, if you don't know how to do a certain piece of that, you have to be able to go and figure that out. And you get better and better at that the more you know, because you know what stuff to ignore and you know what stuff to look for. But that level of independence is really critical. And that's why you hear people talk about like tutorial hell and they stay in tutorials and that's all they can do because they can only follow what other people tell them to do. All the time, you need to be challenging yourself. A great example being a game. Hey, I see this game. how would I create that? Well, give it a shot, and you'll see, like, you'll kind of grow your wings and like gain that independence and force yourself to really feel what it's like to like do this stuff on your own and not have the crutch of someone else telling you what to do. Let's see. Me Too asked about how common it is for people to pronounce auth zero as auth o. So it is auth zero. People say auth o all the time. And yeah, I think most of us kind of ignore it. It's not really worth correcting people, but it is auth zero. Just kind of looking through the last couple of questions. Cool. So you've given us already a little teaser, but I'm curious. You mentioned kind of getting more into React game stuff. What does this year look like for you in terms of your content that you're going to do?
For sure. So I do think because I mean I've done a few JavaScript games. I'm probably going to create some few more. I think with this course coming out, which is going to be the fundamentals of HTML, CSS, and JavaScript.
That everyone
I
should
really
go subscribe
wanna-
to make sure they know when it comes out.
Yes, please do. I really just want to. I think for my own sake as well. Like I said, I want to stick to doing stuff I enjoy,
Hmm.
and I just feel like it's time for me to start creating more React content. Just purely because at work I'm using, I mean, I use React, I use TypeScript, I use GraphQL,
Oh,
and
cool.
it's not really being reflected in my channel.
Yep.
So even though I do enjoy making tutorials because I want everyone to be able to learn how to code, I want to make those resources available, and I feel pretty confident in releasing games like that. I also want to create content that um I would benefit from too. So I'm sort of like toying with the idea of whether I should be, going like full on advanced or sticking with the JavaScript game. So I thought React was a good compromise.
Yeah. Fair enough. So is that going to be React games or just kind of React content in general?
Games,
Okay.
yeah. I've already made Flappy Birds and React. I think
Sweet.
actually that's the only one I've done. So I've done one game. So I've got a few more. I think it's also quite nice to be able to have the game built in JavaScript and then the same game with the exact same logic built in React so
Yeah.
people can understand or
Yeah.
see the difference. So that was my initial thinking. I have made a TikTok clone as well. So I think like I'm still going to stick along the lines of games, but then also perhaps introduce apps like TikTok
Yeah.
and like Netflix and stuff as well too. So
Very
down
cool.
the street of like that project that are quite self-contained in a way.
Yes. I love it. That's so cool. One of the things I did was I mentioned that build a quiz app course, like series playlist on my YouTube channel that I did. I recorded a React version of that for Level Up Tutorials on Scott Talinsky's platform. And it was really cool to kind of see how you would do things differently with just vanilla JavaScript versus React. So I love the idea of having those be kind of positioned next to each other. And if you um, if you do that, I think a cool thing would be to like release them maybe 1 week apart. Like if you did a new one, that way you can kind of promote, or maybe actually release them at the same time, so you could promote the other one in each
Yeah.
one, if that makes sense. And
Oh,
so
that's quite cool.
if one becomes popular, you're sending a portion of those people to the next one as well. So anyway, I've got lots of Ania Kubow content to watch this upcoming year, especially the 10-hour course.
Oh, I really hope it goes okay. It is the proof. I want to say proofreading, proof watching
Mm,
that I'm sort of like dreading
hmm.
because that's the last part of it. But yeah, I hope everyone watches it. I'm gonna make sure that it's passed all the
All
quality
over.
checks.
Yeah. How do you this seems like a weird question. Maybe how long does it take to export a video that's 10 hours long?
Oh my God, I don't know. I've been doing it in chunks so far. So I've got like
Okay.
4 so far.
Okay.
It will take a long time. I'll actually tell you. I'll give you the exact figure and you
Okay.
might cry or laugh.
Yeah. You just like hit export and then like don't touch your computer for like a week and then all of this
A
then later
week,
it's
yeah.
done. Yeah. uh that's
I will
cool.
get the exact figure though. I think it'll be quite funny.
Yeah. Um Me Too is asking, when you do React for games, are you working with elements on the page as opposed to drawing a canvas? How does the performance compare with something? And you're not using WebGL or 3JS or anything like that, so I don't know if you'd be able to talk to that. But I'm assuming you'd still be just working with elements on the page, right? Like still not doing any canvas or anything with React.
Yeah, so again, and even in React, obviously we have the option of using loads of different packages and stuff. I don't want to do that. I really want to, like, even with the styling, I don't really touch it
Hmm.
until the very end, because like I think if someone's come to my channel to learn how to build a game, they probably just want to learn the logic, right? So you're going to be working with a lot of just squares colliding and stuff. And it's not going to be until the last like 5 minutes that I'll probably be like, and this is something that I made earlier, and apply like some basic
Okay, throw it
styling
on.
to it.
Yeah,
Yeah. Because I don't know, like I just don't want to pollute the learning experience.
yeah,
I mean, by all means, if you make the game and then you see something cool on NPM that you want to use, then go ahead. But yeah, that's not really my style.
yeah. I love that. That's one of my goals is to do a few more, not 10 hours long, like hour to 2 hour, like build so and so with HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. Because that quiz app did pretty well for me. And I want to do a couple more of that type of thing. So keep an eye out for some of those to come in the future
Yeah,
too.
for sure.
Yeah, if people have any suggestions, actually, if people have ideas or suggestions for apps to build in vanilla JavaScript and or games to build in vanilla JavaScript or React, throw them in the chat so Anya can build out her list of videos that she's going to do this year.
James, what do you have upcoming on your channel?
I'm in the
Mentioned jam
middle.
been a popular topic for you because that was
Yeah. Jamstack has been a big one for me. We talked about this earlier, really just out of interest and enjoyment. Like I've started to build out a lot of tools of mine and demos and things for my interest and stuff that I use using the Jamstack, and I just think it's cool. So I've done a lot of content around that. I'm experimenting right now with today is day 6, I think, of a video on array methods. So like map, reduce, filter, that sort of stuff. So 5-minute videos, one a day for the past 6 days, just kind of seeing how those shorter ones do, having a playlist of those, seeing how they like grow over time. Cause I think when you release a video every day, people get a little less interested every day too. So it's kind of like just kind of curious. How does it do now? How does it do long term? But a couple of the builds something with HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. I've got some sponsored content lined up that I've got to start working on that I'm excited about. Stuff that is pretty exclusively in the Jamstack space, so I'll use it in a Jamstack context. So again, getting to stick with stuff that I enjoy. And I don't know, a big focus for me this year. I've got 4 pillars. I haven't I want to do a video and kind of announce this and tell people what my focus is and stuff. But a big focus is just supporting the people that support me. So people that show up in a Twitch chat, people that show up and watch a YouTube video, people that I interact with in Discord and that sort of stuff. Like being able to support them in different ways is a big topic for me. So I'm working on some Discord automation stuff that I will create some video content around as well eventually.
nice and fun.
Um,
Share the channel, yeah,
yeah.
on the channel as a tester. We'll test it for you.
Yes. Thank you. I appreciate that. And by the way, if anyone is interested in joining that, here's the Discord link. There we go. If you're interested in joining that, please do. And then the other thing I was going to look for, what did someone just ask for? Was a link in here? Oh, for your Udemy. I have.
Right, yeah. So I actually have that same video on YouTube because it's a free video. You can just find it on my YouTube channel, and it's the
Cool.
Tetris long version. So not the first one that I filmed on my iPhone. I redid the video and made it a little bit more beginner friendly, in which I actually, like, before we use something like for each, I'll go into a bit of an explainer about it before as well.
Cool.
So rather than just launch into it. So that was the one I had on Udemy. Yeah, check it out. It'll just be on my YouTube. I can find it if you. Oh, you found my Udemy one.
I'm a
That was
professional.
quick.
Quick, yes, pun intended. um, interesting note. I don't know if you know this or if you were planning on it. If you were thinking about taking your intro to web course that you were talking about and putting on Udemy, you can only do 2 hours of content if it's free on Udemy.
Yeah. No, I saw that. I probably won't be putting it on Udemy anyway. I'm just gonna
Okay.
stick it on my own channel,
Cool.
see how it goes. Yeah. Not
Sweet.
like, yeah.
Yeah. Well, I am
Spread
looking
the
forward
word.
to that. All right. So two things. We've gone hour and 5 minutes, which is great. 2 things before we wrap up that I want to give you an opportunity to talk about. I think we've talked a little bit about the first one already, but I want to do like a developer soapbox thing. Like I want you to get on your soapbox to kind of rant or be passionate about whatever it is that you're passionate about. And I think we've already heard some of it. But what is something that that you're passionate about that you really believe strongly in for developers?
Yeah, for sure. Well, I guess because we've been talking about games, I'm going to carry on talking about games. You're going to be sick of me hearing the same word soon. I really do believe that game development is the way forward if you're trying to become really good at JavaScript. I don't think that it hurts to be building these games like very, very early on because you do get experience in theological thinking. Like we mentioned, it is one function. It doesn't just do one thing. For example, like in the example that I said
Hmm.
earlier of the web page, a button is just a button. You click it and something happens. Whereas in a game, one function can have so much functionality. So we did the example of Snake before. The same thing for Pac-Man. You know, when Pac-Man eats something, then something happens and that affects something else. You get a score. There's just so much going on. And having that type of thinking is crucial for when you become a professional software developer in a professional setting and you are dealing with much more complicated things. So having that logical thinking, um, having that approach from the get-go is crucial. And I think games is definitely the way to do it. Oh, and write tests, not the I
There you go.
know.
There's like the little extra tidbit is always write tests.
I write tests. I actually hate writing tests, but I'm trying to make myself love doing it.
That's actually one of my technical goals is to kind of add some tests to some of the stuff that I do. I don't write almost any tests, so that is one of my goals. To be fair, developer soapbox. The thing that you're passionate about is game development with JavaScript, and specifically like being one of the best ways that you can learn JavaScript in a very unique way, in a way that's going to force you to learn much differently, and I would argue better as well than just your average JavaScript tutorial. So, right there with you on that. And the second thing is any kind of community shout out or plug that you want to give. Could be yourself, it could be others, but anything that you want to share from the community.
Yeah, for sure. Well, it's going to be for other people because I am so grateful for being part of this community. I want to give a shout out to the YouTube Discord channel. Thanks so much for all your support. I know that James, you're part of that, so that's been really great. I really want to tell you guys how much I appreciate the community we've built, and then also the Twitter dev community in general. I've never been part of an online community which has been so caring and so giving and so nice and always so eager to help. I think it's rare. The internet is sort of known for like trolling and being mean, but no, really. I mean, of course, you see it a little bit, but like it's just overwhelming how much positive energy there is
Yeah,
on Twitter in the community that we've all built. So yeah.
I 100 million% agree. Someone asked like what was something positive that happened in 2020, and as far as like me as a content creator, like easily the best thing that happened was finding that Discord group, being able to talk to people that have been doing it longer than you have, that have been doing it less time than you have, that have more subscribers, that have less subscribers. Like we've got all a whole mix of people in different stages of their content creation. And everyone's just kind of on the same playing field. Like I feel like it's super collaborative. People are willing to share their suggestions and tips. There's Code Stacker, who's part of it. Jordan's part of it. It really is just amazing. It's incredible to see like how much of a community we've kind of built with ourselves and how useful it is. And I use Twitter the same way. So Twitter for me is pretty exclusively developer related stuff. I say this a lot, but like instead of going to Stack Overflow, I go to Twitter to ask questions because I know that I have people there that I respect, that enjoy communicating, that have knowledge that helps answer the questions that I have, and then have stuff to share as well. Um, so on a positive note, just communities in general, agree with you. They can be very powerful. You see a lot of the potential trolling stuff, and I would say like I don't experience much of that, especially in none in our Discord server group, which is or the YouTube Discord group, which is great. So yeah, I'm glad you brought that up, and I'll kind of reiterate just how amazing those things have been for me too. Cool. Well, I think that that does it. We've talked a lot about JavaScript games in a very good way. Hopefully, people are ready to go out and build their first game if they haven't already. Check you out on Twitter and YouTube, Udemy if they want to for that re-recorded, updated course. You've had all the links that you could possibly need. So thank you, everyone, for hanging out. I appreciate it. Anya, thanks for coming on. I'm glad that we got a chance to kind of meet for the first time, which is
Yeah.
always odd, but also these things just seem to go really well because people are great, or at least they can be. The people that I bring on are great. So thanks for coming and joining.
Thanks so much for having me. It's been super fun. And yeah, hey Twitch. I was talking, we were talking about Twitch earlier. Like I'm a newbie to Twitch, so this is pretty cool. I've really enjoyed speaking to everyone.
And now you're going to be like, Twitch is going to be your thing, I bet, in a little bit. Maybe.
Most likely on Twitch.
We'll see. Cool. Well, thanks everyone for coming. Clarkio, who is, I say a friend of mine.